Good morning and welcome into another new fresh week here on the Hot Sheet. Pleasure to have you. Let me know in the live chat which market you're tuning in live from. To get the most out of what we do at BAM, make sure you're subscribed to the Now BAM YouTube channel. That's this channel that you're watching it on. Just go ahead down there and hit that subscribe in that bell. You can do it. Thank you so much. We've got a bunch to cover. I'm going to get into the DOJ on the second topic. I know maybe it's on the top of many agents' minds, but as we always do on Mondays, let's lead with inventory. I think that's the most important thing that we can do as professionals to stay on top of our game each and every single week. Understand how the market's shifting on the macro so we can relate it back into the micro. So let's go ahead and do that and take a look at what the active inventory shifts have been over the last week. And what we gained last week, we lost this past week, or the week prior. We lost this past week. Inventory fell, which is typical this time of year to see inventory, especially more so in the spring. I guess you could start seeing a gain here as we get into the late spring season. But inventory fell last week, 517,000 plus to just about 513,000 on the active inventory across the country. Same week the year prior, we had a slight gain, about 800 home pop. So really flat, but this year, we saw this drop off. So if we just look at the chart here, for those of you listening, I'll just walk you through the numbers, right? Last year at this time, the week between March 31 and April 7th, we saw that slight gain. And the following week, we saw a little bit of a drop off, similar to the drop off we just experienced this week. And then from that point forward, from, certainly April 21st on, we continued to gain inventory week over week last year, peaking all out at about November 17th. And then you had the seasonality pullback on inventory that you typically do when the holidays come. So from really this point forward last year, we saw week over week inventory gain. Now this year, we've seen inventory gaining really week over week since mid-February, as you can see here on the chart. The drop-off wasn't nearly as significant as end of the year last year. We kind of rocked flat once we hit bottom more, and then now we've been seeing this increase before this slight decrease this week. So question is, will this just be a blip on the radar, and will we continue to gain inventory? I expect that to be the case, certainly in places like the Southeast region. We're seeing that in other areas of the country as well. Expect that trend to continue and maybe even exacerbate throughout the rest of the spring and the summer months, as homes in some markets have been sitting a little bit longer. Now, I get it, not every market, but there are a lot of markets where this is true today. And in those markets, you'll certainly see inventory increase even more. The 10-year today, which we'll take a look at before the end of the show, is at not an all-time, but a year-to-date high, essentially, today. So the cost of a 30-year fixed is going to get expensive again, or a little bit more expensive than the average throughout the year as we sit at this high number, despite the spread being better. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. So there's your update on inventory. Last note on inventory, I like to point this out. I like to point out the 2019 level, 835,000. So we're still well 300,000 plus off from that number. Now let's take a look at new listings. New listings can be one of the best drivers for inventory. It's something that home buyers wait for. They want that new, what hasn't been on the market yet, what doesn't have a stain on it. And we've been hoping to really be above the 2023 levels, but also 2022 levels. And this is our first big miss here this past week. Now, maybe it was the holiday last weekend that kind of, stalled some of these new listings. We'll have to wait and see next week if we get a dramatic jump in new listings as people get further away from the holiday and maybe make those moves this week. We will see. But the week in 2022, week over week, year over year comparable for the same week, we're almost 10,000 apart. Certainly not the gap that any of us were hoping for. We even missed last year's mark for the same week. So below 2022 and 2023 levels, showing us that there's still some struggles getting new listings onto the market. This is an unfortunate decline. Now, we could see a big pop next week. As I said, that holiday that I'm referencing, the Easter holiday, obviously shifts every single year. It was earlier this year, so maybe we should expect a big pop going into next week. Next week's data will give us a much stronger indication on if we might have a new listing problem. Certainly, the 30-year fixed is not helping support new listings right now with where we're at on that number. Here's the price cut percentage for last week, about a third on a normal year. We're basically right there. About a third will do a price reduction before they sell. It's 32% last week, 29.9 for 2023 for the same week, and 17.6. So we're higher on price cuts than we've been at any point in the last 2 years, and we're damn near at the number that is a normal average number. Normal, not like, oh my gosh, there's all these price cuts happening. No, it's not the end of the world. This is a normal number that we typically see. What is not normal is that the DOJ will agree to a settlement and then pull out of it and reverse course. Of course, that's what they did from one administration to the next. During the current administration, the DOJ previously said they want to pull out of the settlement they had with NAR. And now a new ruling by a U.S. Court of Appeals allows the DOJ to do just that. They're allowed to now reopen their NAR investigation. So not only have they been able to pull out of that settlement, but they can now reinvestigate NAR. Now, many of us have said, okay, it's one thing to have a proposed settlement that many of us real estate agents across the country are making procedural changes to adhere to, making changes in your business and your operations, how you're going to go about buyer agency in the future. These changes in many offices have already been implemented or are being implemented, or are at least, I hope, at the very least, being discussed about being implemented. But it's all being implemented off of a proposed settlement. And now the DOJ might step in and make changes to that settlement or have influence over it, to say the least. The appeals court, this is from a nowbam.com article and update. You can go read the full details there. The appeals court just gave the Department of Justice the green light to investigate the National Association of Realtors, specifically its rules around commission sharing. So what kind of commentary will they have around what's in the proposed settlement? Does the DOJ believe that sellers should have the right of freedom of speech and freedom to articulate their position to the market? Or do they want to constrain sellers' abilities to be able to make an offer to not only buyers, but buyer agents? Are they going to try to put the muzzle on buyers, or on sellers rather? Now, there could be arguments made that, hey, people want to constrict and regulate citizens' movements. This, to me, would be one of those examples if the DOJ goes down that path. I think what's in the proposed settlement still allows sellers to operate freely, having that freedom of speech that they so desire in being able to market and promote their properties. So the timeline of the DOJ versus the NAR investigation, just to bring you up to speed, 2018, DOJ's antitrust division starts a civil investigation of specific policies of the NAR Association. This is during the previous president administration. The DOJ started that civil investigation. DOJ in 2019 issues the first civil investigative demand seeking information commission-related NAR practices. June 2020, okay? DOJ issues a second CID seeking information on NAR's newly adopted clear cooperation policy. That's a big one that they don't like. That one we know is going away no matter what. Negotiations between NAR and DOJ begin for a possible settlement. And in November 2020, they reached that settlement, okay? Last presidential administration. Then 7 months into the current presidential administration, you have DOJ withdrawing the proposed consent judgment after failed negotiation attempts. January of last year, the district court grants NAR's petition, citing CID breaches the settlement agreement. And then now DOJ appeals the district court's decision. Okay. In our view, in the plain language of the disputed 2020 letter permits DOJ to reopen its investigation. We therefore reverse the judgment of the district court. Now, if you look at DOJ during the last 3+ years, if you look at DOJ, FTC, they really don't like anything that resembles big business or big groups. That they're against that. I really believe both sides of the aisle are against that for different reasons. But particularly the last 3.5 years, there's been, whether it makes sense or not for consumers, it's just like, let's break up big for the, just for the not for the fun of it, but just for the fact that we're breaking up more big. And there's people that are going to be supportive of that. Whether we'll see what the DOJ does. Okay. And we need to, as a real estate profession, understand that DOJ has extreme power. We need to respect whatever decision they make and adhere to those rules. That's obvious. But we need to see where this shakes out. I think there were some good things in the proposed settlement. Maybe we should give the DOJ a chance here. Maybe they'll be able to come in here and look at the settlement and say, hey, some things went a little bit too far. Some things are going to hurt first-time home buyers. There's some things in here that are going to hurt VA buyers. Does the DOJ care about our veterans? We will find out. We shall see how much they really do. Here's some more on this. After arguments remained in front of 3 judges, the lone dissenting opinion came from Judge Justin R. Walker, who insists the reopening of DOJ's investigation would violate contract they knowingly entered into. So Justin Walker on the side of, hey, they settled. They should have adhered to that settlement. Mantel Williams, NAR spokesman, as articulated by Judge Walker in his dissenting opinion, NAR believes the government should be held to the terms of its contracts, and NAR will review that decision and evaluate those next steps. Hopefully those next steps include getting a win in your column. Listen, to me, I would move forward on some of the things that we know for sure that are in that settlement that I don't think the DOJ is going to come in here and be like, no, forget about that. Listen, clear cooperation is never coming back. Okay, so be prepared for that as a real estate professional, as well as disclosing in paperwork before taking people on home tours by your agency. I think that is for sure not going to be changed. Okay, so I'd prepare for that as well. All right, let's move on here. The extensive lock-in effect, which has taken over the market somewhat, so to speak. We've got some information here from Zillow. Who's most likely to be locked in? This lock-in effect where sellers don't want to put their homes in the market. It's hurting inventory because they're not comfortable with the interest rate on the other side. Okay, so there's a recent Zillow article exploring the impact of this mortgage rate lock-in effect and ultimately who's most likely to be locked in. Mortgage rate lock-in has significantly impacted the sales, the inventory, motivating homeowners to stay in their current homes. Okay, we've got that. The mortgage rate lock-in led to roughly 1.33 million transactions being prevented between the second quarter of 2022 and the end of 2023. That is a lot of pent-up demand that still exists in the background today. For those that believe that, is there going to be demand in the future? There's going to be plenty of it. It's going to have to match up with affordability and being able to trade in a ridiculously low rate that should have never happened in the first place for a reasonable rate. It's not going to get back down there. We're not going to bust out the money printing machine and bring rates back down to zero, or we shouldn't. Certainly hope that won't be the case. This reduction in supply increased home prices by 5.7%. Despite a slowdown in housing demand due to challenging affordable conditions, the market with a higher proportion of homeowners not affected by rate lock-in have experienced notable increases in new listings. Okay, so this one straight out of the hot sheet show notes here. This would be really valuable for folks in like Florida and some of these markets which are experiencing this. Um, this line here: markets with a higher proportion of homeowners not affected by rate lock-in have experienced notable increases in new listings. This is definitely the case in the market that I'm sitting in right now in Naples, Florida. Homeowners are not affected by the rate lock-in. I mean, there's so much cash down here, make your head spin. Okay. So now what's happening to those markets? Well, you're experiencing a bunch of new listings because people are like, I'm not waiting to make my move. I can make my move. I want to make a move. There's no such thing as pent up demand for me. I do things when I want to do them in these markets where you've got a lot of cash or you've got a buyer or I'm sorry, a homeowner who just really isn't feeling inflation whatsoever. And what's happening in those markets is you're actually seeing inventory increase dramatically. You're seeing inventory rise really exponentially back to 2019 levels or even above, just north of where I am today. Punta Gorda's almost 30 to 40% above pre-pandemic levels. There's other parts in the country where that's similar. Just talk to some agents in Austin. They get it. They've been feeling it now for over a year. This reduction in supply, again, has increased home prices almost everywhere in the country. But those that I speak of where you're seeing the inventory increase might be going the other direction. I'm still a believer that nationwide we'll see home prices go up, but really being able to explain to a homeowner right now, why should I take less right now? All these comps the last year were record setting. Well, you're in a market that's not affected by rate lock-in. And we're experiencing notable increases in new listings, which is dragging out inventory, which is dragging down your ability to get yesterday's comps. There it is. It's as simple as that when you talk to those homeowners. All right, here are some metros where homeowners are least likely to be affected by changes in mortgage rates. Pittsburgh, 27% free of rate lock. Buffalo, Cleveland, Oklahoma City, and Detroit. Metros where homeowners are most likely to be affected: San Francisco, San Jose, San Diego, Los Angeles, and Seattle. And that's where you've seen maybe some of the inventory dramatic decreases there. Percentage of homeowners free of rate lock-in by generation: the silent generation 14%, the boomer 17%, more cash, Gen X 12, millennials 6, Gen Z 4. It really, I mean, that just goes, look at this. That just goes right down. I'm sorry, boomers is more than silent gen. I thought it was percentages right by age. Boomers would be a little bit less age than silent gen, a little bit. Definitely lower age than silent gen, but boomers, not surprisingly, 17%. They've got the most money in the world of any other demographic. So no surprise there. There you go on that. There's more information in your hot sheet show notes. If you don't have access to the hot sheet show notes, it means that you're not a member of BAMX. We release these every single day. I mean, look at today's. These are linked out with the sources. We have 7 charts in segment 1, 5 charts from that segment, and another 3 charts in the employment segment. Just ridiculous amounts of information there for you to be able to download and put into your business any way that you see fit. And if you're not a member of BAMX, you can get 10% by using code HOT by being someone who follows this show. Friday, we had a March unemployment, a payroll report, and an unemployment report. This was way above expectations. So we had a whole bunch of job report, weekly reports last week. And then we had this explosive March report that came out. This is the employment situation as of March 2024. Of course, the Bureau of Labor Statistics puts this out. They put it out on Friday. The total non-farm payroll employment rose by 303,000 in March. That's that chart on the right. So month over month, bigger than any month so far this year. And then the unemployment rate changed downward from 3.9 to 3.8%. This is like really showing an incredibly strong labor market. You hear about some layoffs here and there, and then you look up at the end of March and it's like, wow, 303,000 jobs. This beat expectations by quite a bit. And then unemployment decreasing by 0.1 also beat expectations. So there's a really strong job market happening. It's one of the reasons why we've just got uncertainty in the market that, I mean, there's more people now on Wall Street saying, are we going to have not runaway, but a second run up on inflation? That's why we see the 10-year here now uh, up over 4.42. It got as high Monday morning here as almost 4.5. Okay. So these are like nearing highest levels of the year. If we go year to date, year to date, we're at the highest level. My bad. Okay. So 4.42 on the 10-year is the highest level. I expect the cost of the 30-year fix to likely tick up. The spread is getting better. So if we had last year's spread, we'd be in even, probably in the 7.5. Spread's getting better here. We left the week just over 7%. We'll probably remain over 7 if this 10-year sticks here today. Obviously, we'll see what happens. What I would love to see for you as a real estate professional is you in DC in June the 6th. We have a mastermind on June the 5th. I'll be going over listing and buyer presentations as part of the mastermind. If you sign up for the VIP mastermind experience, you get both days as well as VIP perks. We have extended the early bird pricing so you can secure your spot. If you're a BAMX member, you get 25% off of that number. So we've extended that. Supposed to end last night. We've extended it at least a couple days. So get into BAM Camp DC, June the 6th in, of course, Washington, DC, our country's capital. We are so honored to be hosting there. Naples was sold out last year. Tickets are selling fast here. So if you want the lowest price, do not wait. Get on that. Also, in a couple weeks, we have our next virtual event called BAM Fest. It's a virtual event that's going to feature a fireside chat with myself and Jared James on what you need to know about the settlement. We're also going to have Jordan Cohen talking about listing presentations straight out of his book, Agent Edge, as well as segments from Chelsea Pites on social media, Lisa Chinati, and others. So the BAM Fest link will be down below. That's April the 17th. That's a free virtual event. If you saw BAM Pro Bowl, then you already know you don't want to miss this virtual event. Those are the next two places that you need to be to experience everything that's going on at BAM. Of course, to get the best out of BAM daily, make sure you subscribe here to the YouTube channel and be following the articles on nowbam.com as well. I will see you back here tomorrow morning on the hot sheet, 9:30 on the east, 6:30 on the west. Until then, of course, toodaloo.